My name is Jiles Smith, and welcome to Our Community. Well, thank you, Mr. Hart, and I appreciate you giving us some opportunity to discuss these things with you today.
That's fine. I'm happy to talk about Adelanto and to share some of the highlights of the city with everybody.
Well, that's great. Tell us some more about your background.
About my background, I was raised in Ontario and spent the majority of my life in California. I've lived in San Bernardino County basically all the time I've lived in California. And what that means is I graduated from Chaffey High School in Ontario and then went to school at Chaffey Community College for 2 years and then transferred to Cal State Fullerton where I got my bachelor's degree in political science. Following that, and I went to Brigham Young University. I got my master's degree in public administration, and while I was there, I went to work for the state of Utah running federal government manpower training programs. With that experience, I was able to get a job when I graduated and worked in the eastern part of Utah running what were called CETA programs in those days, and ran those programs for a couple of years, then went to the city of Chino and started in Chino in 1978 and worked my way up to essentially an assistant city manager's position, transferred from there to the city of Rancho Cucamonga. Worked in Rancho Cucamonga for several years and then became the city manager in the city of 29 Palms. I was in 29 Palms as a city manager for 10 years and then went to Orange County for a couple of years and as city manager in Rancho Santa Margarita. And then when I left Rancho Santa Margarita, I came to Adelanto, and I will have been the city manager in Adelanto for 9 years on the 21st of January.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. And so it's a great thing. During that time when I was in 29 Palms, I got my doctorate in business administration. I also I taught at Chaffey College for about 10 years as an adjunct faculty member and then taught at Copper Mountain College in Joshua Tree. And so I got my doctorate because I was working in the educational system at that time. And I got it in business administration rather than public administration because I didn't want to get tagged as a specialized person. I wanted the ability to teach a variety of things, which I was able to teach a number of things. Thoroughly enjoyed being an adjunct faculty member at the community college level. But I don't do that anymore. This job keeps me more than busy enough.
I can imagine. So just tell us more about the highlights of your community here.
Some of the challenges that we had related to the ability to treat the waste water that was here. And so one of the highlights is the fact that we were able to upgrade our wastewater treatment plant. We just finished that. It was probably about a $12 million project that we were able to get completed, and it's been very positive for us. We had several challenges with the regional water board that we were able to overcome, and so the wastewater transplant working on that. Other highlights, would relate to the growth of the community itself has helped us become a little bit more attractive to some of the retailers that are looking for different types of population. You'll notice that one of the challenges that we have is there are not a lot of retail centers in Adelanto. We're just sort of at the beginning stages of that and beginning to grow in that area. And so one of the highlights is the land values here are low enough that a developer can come in and purchase property, make the improvements that they need to, and still be able to be profitable as a business. One of the other highlights is the fact that we have a a quick planning process. Our fees are the lowest in the desert, and so somebody can come in, the fees aren't high, and we can process things quickly for them to get them going. And we know that for business, time is money.
Right.
And so when they're able to process things that are good, we have a great city council. I think that's one of the things that's really critical for a community, is that you have a city council that works well together. They have the same goals. They may not agree on how to get to the end, but they're all together for what that goal is at the end. We're able to accomplish that. They're very business oriented, very pro-business. They pretty much given me direction to make sure that we work as much as we can with the businesses to help them come to Adelanto and to get established. So those are just a few highlights, of the community. Again, we're growing and we have some challenges with the growth, but we're overcoming those and looking forward to the future and what the future will bring for us.
In your many years of experience, how important is it for the city council to work together? You just mentioned that, how important that was, but how important?
It's critical. It's critical. What happens when a city council is working well together, and the city manager is obviously part of that team, the city manager has a sense of where the council wants to go and how they want things handled. And so I'm able then to direct the staff on where to go, what to do, how to do what they need to get done, what sort of direction they need. When you have a city council that is not working well together, they're polarized, it basically stops the staff. You can't really make any decisions because you don't know that you're going to get support from the council or not for what you're trying to accomplish. So you spend a lot of time going back to the city council as a group, asking them what they want done. There may be some disagreement among the council of what they want done, so they need to work through that before they can give direction to me for the staff. It just paralyzes things that occur in a city when you have a city council that doesn't get along with each other.
Could you tell us 3 areas of focus that you have for the city in 2014?
2014, we do have some areas of focus. One is the city is struggling financially, and one of our focuses is going to be how to continue to provide services to the community and within the revenues we have, or we may have to ask the community if they're willing to support an increase of some kind to maintain the services. So that's one of the focuses that we have in 2014. Another focus is always we focus on economic development and trying to attract. One of the things that the residents in Adelanto are aware of, and I think some of the high desert residents are aware of, is that we have a Target store that has shown an interest in Adelanto, but all work on that project has ceased because of the economic downturn and the slower population growth that we have. In discussions with Target just last year, they indicated to us that they're still committed. They own the land that they were going to build on, so it's not a lease of any kind. They actually own the land, but they want greater population growth in the area because right now their current Target stores have a certain number of people that shop there, and it's maintaining itself at a steady rate. If you were to build a new Target, it would simply just take from those stores.
Right.
And so they want more population so they can draw different customers in. And so those are 2 main areas that we're going to highlight in the next year. And then I think the other area that we need to highlight is it's going to be an election year, so we're going to need to be able to highlight for the community the accomplishments of the current city council and the council members that are there. Consistency in this job is really important, and unfortunately every 2 years you have an election and there is that ability to disrupt that consistency. And so that creates some challenges that we have to start to focus on what the council wants us to start doing so that we can get things accomplished for them this next year.
You kind of touched on this earlier. In these difficult financial times, exactly how is the city doing?
We're struggling. Adelanto's struggling. What we have found in doing some research is that the city of Adelanto has never had enough tax revenue coming in to cover the cost of just the basic services. The city has survived on one-time revenues or grant revenues ever since it was incorporated back in 1970. And so what's happened now is we've kind of run out of the one-time things that can bring us the money that we need to continue. And so this calendar year, 2013, I had to lay off 20 people in March. We closed a fire station and we laid off some police personnel just to cut our deficit. Our deficit was about $5 million. We cut it down to $2.5 million basically. So we still have $2.5 million we need to deal with. We used to own a correctional facility. We sold it to a private company called the Geo Group. The money from that sale is what's been sustaining us for the last few years. And that money's running out. And so now we have the challenge of how do you continue moving forward. And so that's where we are right now. We're struggling financially. We have some real big challenges ahead of us in how to maintain our services and to meet the community's needs.
Some difficult decisions, in other words.
Definitely.
So since the city is having some financial difficulties, like most cities are having, what is the percentage of your budget that goes to fire protection and police?
About 60% of the city's general fund goes to the to law enforcement. Our cost for law enforcement are around 6 to 7 million, and this is to highlight the tax issue we have. We bring in about $4.5 million in taxes. So even the taxes that we bring in don't cover the cost of police and fire for us. So they're the largest part of our general fund. The rest of it's covered through sales tax and other money that cities receive from the state for their operations. But they pretty much they're about $6 to $7 million of a $10 million budget. So they are our biggest cost.
The tax issue seems to be a big challenge for Adelanto right now.
It is. And now's a hard time for us to ask the community to support us, but we're going to have to ask them to support us in some way. We have created a task force of residents to help us look at the city's challenges and then to make some recommendations, which we will do in January or February, to the city council for what can be done to increase the city's revenues.
Well, a lot of the cities up here are looking into a JPA to see if they can reduce some of the costs for fire and police. What is your analysis of how?
Well, we are part of that Joint Powers Authority study that's occurring, and the consultants have done quite a bit of work at this point in time on the study. And preliminary information is indicating that there are some areas to save, there are some areas where you may not save. The total savings or the total ability to save hasn't been identified yet. One of the struggles for Adelanto is that we have a facility that houses not only the Adelanto police, it houses the county police too. It's a dual operation. So for us, we have cost savings that the other cities don't have as a result of that. So as they analyze it, it may make sense for one city, but may not make sense for another city. And so those are all the things that need to occur as you go through that. In terms of fire, you have the same issues with fire. It may work for some, it may not work for others. And so those are the things that the study's looking at. And we as the city managers have met with the consultants and are talking to them. We're expecting, I think, a final product towards the end of this calendar year.
So what is the city doing to bring more jobs to the community?
Economic development is what we're trying to do in that area. We meet as often as we can with businesses and people that are interested in coming to this area. We were I guess disheartened a little bit that the Walmart went on the Victorville side of 395. We had been in discussions with Walmart a few years ago, and I'm not sure what the final determining factor was as to why they went across the street. But we are hopeful that the Walmart being on the Victorville side will attract businesses that are supported by Walmart, or at least the people that are attracted to Walmart will use these businesses and they'll want to build on our side of 395. And so we're working on those things to try to bring jobs. We also have an industrial park that has a lot of property available, and so we're looking for industrial users and people to come in. And you may have heard of Opportunity High Desert, which is the collaboration of all the cities together working up here. And what we determined is each city has its own strengths. Adelanto happens to have an industrial park and industrial areas where some of the other cities may not have that. And so that's what we've started to do through that organization, is to market Adelanto, its industrial capabilities, and also its ability to support retail as it comes through. But what we found is the 15 freeway corridor is a very attractive corridor for most of the developers.
So what is the city's plans for additional park and recreation facilities?
The City of Adelanto is one of those underutilized cities in terms of parkland. We don't have a lot. The City Council a couple of years ago put together a master plan for a park that would essentially expand the Richardson Park right here next to City Hall. It would include baseball fields, soccer fields, even some football fields that would be available for the community, as well as an amphitheater and other things. We've tried for a couple grants through the state. We haven't been successful, unfortunately, in getting those grants. But we do have a plan, and what we've decided is through our community development block grant funding, we're going to start to chip away at that master plan and to begin to develop facilities as we can to expand the parks and the recreational opportunities for the community.
It's not about the children who dream too much, or dare too much, or live or love or hope too much. It's about the 1 in 6 children who want just enough. Just enough food to stop the hunger. Just enough medicine to make the sickness go away. Just enough home to be safe and warm. Just enough to let a kid be a kid. Because right now in America, 1 out of every 6 children is living in a state of poverty. And that's just 1 child too many.
Every corner, every way.
Let me just say something.
Who willed it, huh?
The way I see it, we all got a choice to make. And we can keep focusing on the bad, dwell on the bad, talk about the bad, or we can focus in on the good. I don't know about y'all, but I've heard just about enough from bad. I'm tired of bad, okay? I want to hear what good's up to. Because I know it's here. I see it. I hear it and I feel it. So I'll tell you, what I want to do, I want to give it up for good. Give it up for what is good, what can be good, what will be good in our communities and our homes and in our lives. Now, who's with me?
Are these real?
The best quality.
You mean they're fake?
Only a few dollars.
Only a few dollars.
Only a few dollars. Only a few dollars.
Only a few dollars.
It's not only a few dollars. Counterfeit goods take away jobs, and many are tied to violence and crimes, including child labor, drugs, and gangs. You have the power to stop it. Know the real cost. Don't buy counterfeits.
Welcome back to Our Community, brought to you by the CYAP.
the city seems to be doing great things when it comes to certain aspects, but what about senior citizen issues here in the city?
You know, the city provides a facility for the senior citizens. The county actually does the programming for seniors in the community. The senior citizens have a community club that they put together where they meet and do things, but we've provided a facility for them. Again, it's just north of City Hall here, and they have full use of that building. We do the maintenance on it for them, although they assist with some things. But we've done what we can to support the activities at that center for the seniors. Over the years, we've done certain things, like we went together with them to build a horseshoe pit that they wanted. And so we've tried to support their efforts to bring things to the city that attract the seniors to them. And so we have been supportive of senior programs and efforts to make things better for the seniors in the community.
And that's great, actually.
They really need some extracurricular activities just to make life more enjoyable in your senior years, and it seems like the city is really assisting in that endeavor. So that's a very good thing.
Yeah, we're working on that.
How about children?
Some cities may forget about the children, and they just think the school district can handle it. What are you doing?
The lives of children are really important, and the city council members, that's one of the things that's been very important to them, is supporting activities for the children. And so what we've worked on are joint use agreements with the school district, where we can include some programming at the schools for the kids. We allow, the Little League is here. We have travel baseball teams, soccer organizations, football organizations, and we work with them to make sure that they have facilities available to them so that the kids can come and participate in those activities. And so the council is truly committed to.
We talked a little bit about this earlier, the housing challenges. Again, housing seems to be very affordable here in Adelanto. Any plans to try to really expand that up to get that base higher, like you talked about, so we can get other retail organizations to come here? Is that part of the master plan?
It is long term. We've been working with the Lewis group of companies who build homes over the years to try to bring into northern Adelanto some more upscale homes that can sort of balance the community out. There's also a Sustainable Communities grant that we received from the state. We got $900,000 from the state to essentially master plan Adelanto from basically Hawley, which is just south of City Hall, north to the city's limits, and to plan community that would be sustainable in terms of parks, trails, school, shopping, all that stuff, and also sustainable in terms of its ability to support the jobs that are necessary. As SCLA expands, Adelanto is clearly the city that's going to benefit from that expansion because we're the closest to it. We use the money that we get from the state and through the gas tax and the state allocations and things, and just piece by piece we try to address the roads. One of the problems with desert roads is that they were often put down without adequate base underneath them, so they crack. You've got a lot of deterioration that occurs in them. And so we have a street maintenance program in place where we're trying to do the best we can, but ultimately you can only do what you can do with the money that's available.
One question that I like to ask in our community is a question that what keeps you up at night. And what I mean by that is, if it happened, it would be catastrophic to you personally, maybe, or
that's the city finances. I have probably not slept well for 2 years, worrying about how we can make Adelanto financially stable and how to move it forward. I mean, overall, I've probably had to lay off about 30 positions since about late 2007. Right. And that keeps me up at night because I worry about those people. They've got mortgages, car payments, they've got kids, they've got families to take care of, and I know it's devastating to them when they lose their job. And so I've really struggled with that. I've struggled again with how to maintain the city's financial solvency. I have a very strong commitment to Adelanto's future. I came here because I knew that Adelanto had a future. It's a community that can grow. We've got a large landmass. We're only about 25% developed. So we've got all of this land that's available for development. It's just a matter of being able to capture it and bring that development to the community, and working with the developers to bring what the community needs to us. And so that's what keeps me up at night.
Anything else you want to add, sir?
The only thing I'd like to add is that Adelanto as a community has strengths. It has the ability to grow and to move forward, but right now we're struggling financially. It's not through the typical things that cities have happened to them in terms of overspending or spending on big pensions and things. We don't have that in Adelanto. What we have is simply a revenue problem. We've had it since the day we were incorporated, and we need the community's help in order to move forward and maintain the police and fire and emergency services that we have in the community and that the residents want.
Thank you very much, sir.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Pleasure.